I'm grinding some hard red wheat, and hard red wheat is what they use to make bread flour. The problem is the red that's in there is oops, here I am making a mess. The red that's in there makes it so that for some reason it just doesn't work as well as when that's been sifted out. I did some research and found that a 50 count mesh, 50 per inch, is the finest that they usually use in baking. It's actually something they use for powdered sugar. I didn't order one, but there's a kitchen store not far from here, and I found this one. And this is a pretty fine mesh. And then also, I found this, and I think this is actually not quite as fine as this. These aren't. But I'm going to try running it through Mom's sifter and then through this to see if we can get that bran out. I'm grinding this fine but not ultra fine. I'm just going to play with it a little bit and see what I can come up with out of the hard red wheat to something towards a bread flour. This is Mom's sifter, and this probably isn't even a 20 count. It's really, you can't even hardly see the screen in there. But I'm going to just put it through here just for fun. And I'm just using this pasta plate because it's white and it'll show. Okay, there is the bran left in. So it did take out some. I'm going to put that in another bowl, so just a second. This is what I just sifted out of that with using Mom's sifter. Now I'm going to use that screen that I got. It's a strainer screen, not really a sifter screen, but it's finer than the sifter that Mom has. Okay, this is the flour that I just shook through that screen. And this is what remained in the screen. The color is obviously very different. This is, before I sifted it, this would be considered graham flour. If I had a finer screen, I could probably get all the red out of here. I don't care to get all of it out, just most of. But I'm going to keep grinding this, and I might sift it another time. Pardon me. I did research, and this is what would be considered like graham flour, which is just whole wheat flour that's a little coarser than the sifted white flour. It doesn't raise as well in bread. That's why they take the bran out. I'm sure they use sifting as well as air and all kinds of stuff. I'm going to see about just trying to do it with sifting. I may see if I can somehow manage to order a couple of sifters. I found a bakery supply out of New York that actually beats Amazon by like $14. I think it's $13.75 there, and it's $26.99 at Amazon for the same brand, same product. So, but I'm going to look at that. For right now, though, I'm just going to try to do it with this. This was just a strainer screen. I think this is about a 30 or so count. And it was, I think, $7 at the kitchen collection store in between here and the hospital, where I've been a lot lately. But I'm going to keep grinding some wheat and see what how well I can sift out this flour. This is what I've sifted out of the flour, and I just sifted it a little bit, and this is obviously a lot more flour in there than just the bran. However, I'd need a finer sifter to be able to get it completely out. Like I said, this one looks to be about 30 screen per inch, and they do make them up to 50 for very fine. However, just for even another example, this is what the flour that I've sifted, and this would be more like a bread flour than either of these, the whole grain or anything. The red wheat is what they use. They just don't use whole red wheat for bread flour. They keep the gluten content high and the protein content high by taking the bran off the grain, kind of like white rice versus brown rice. They polish white rice. I don't know how they do that. Maybe I could look into that a little bit better, because that might tell me how to get the bran off the hard red wheat instead of having to sift it all like this. Although it would still need to be sifted, just maybe not so much. Just a thought. Well, I haven't been doing this from the beginning. What I've decided to do was to run it through this screen, sift it through there. This is a little bit coarser screen than the other strainer that I got. Then I put it through this one. And there's the bran left in the screen. And a little bit of flour too. But that's what I've been doing. Not the whole time, but the most recent. To prove that this wasn't a complete failure, I'm going to weigh this. This is the sifted flour versus the bran that I sifted out of it. The color is definitely different. But I'm going to weigh it. Just because I'm curious how much gets sifted out. 285 grams of flour. $140 grams of bran and possibly flour. There is a little bit on the stove. And a finer screen, I'd probably get more out. But so about a third of, roughly, because there is still flour in here. I don't have a fine enough screen to take it any further. Get any more flour out of it at this point. So this was kind of an experiment. I'm going to see about making some bread with this sifted hard red wheat flour. It is fairly fine, not ultra fine. I could always run it through again on a finer setting or put it in the blender. I'm not really worried about that because I'm planning to use it for whole wheat bread. I didn't have quite a pound. Between the two, just under a pound. And it's going to be a mess to clean up. But I wanted to see about making bread flour. Here, let's see. Bread flour. Because typically bread flour is just hard red wheat, sifted, without the bran. And sometimes King Arthur adds malted barley flour. And I've actually looked into that. The problem is to dry it, you need basically a high-end dehydrator to do it at home, an Excalibur, to get the temperature you need for the proper drying without killing off the enzymes that you want to keep in the flour when it's done. So that's so far. But I'm just playing around. There is the bran I sifted. And there's the flour I sifted, and that's the bran that came out of it. It's hard red wheat was all it was. And actually, I don't even mind doing the grinding. There is one note on this grinder that Mom has that I've been using. It really makes a mess when you grind it, and I use this piece of tubing to go around it to help. But that doesn't quite get tight enough. It doesn't stay on. So I have to pinch it. It's too bad they don't make something for these so that it was easier to actually grind without making a mess. Because grinding flour does make a mess if you're doing it by hand. And like I said, I don't mind doing it by hand. I just don't like all the mess it makes. And that's just a thought on this and on the flour, and we'll see what else I can get done on it. I will make this into bread. I need to actually get a start going because I need to make bread. It takes about 4 days from a start in the refrigerator to bread out of the oven, because I'm not leaving starts out anymore. And we'll get back to it on the flour, the sifting, all of it later. I just wanted to do this little experiment today. Oh, I got to clean up.
Thanks for watching Perhaps Cooking. Feel free to share, give me a thumbs up, or subscribe.